Hello everybody, my name is Patrick Dennis with Synaptic Advisory Partners, and today we're going to make another video to show you an example of how Youreka can solve some specific challenges that we might be facing in the field. In this case, we're going to be talking about how Youreka can support a specific use case around health, safety, and environment audits. And the reason why we're doing this video today is because we've talked to several different clients and we've had lots of different customers ask us how they might be able to accomplish this. And so I'm going to go through an example today of us using Youreka and the Salesforce.com platform to manage this type of business process. And so we'll get right into it and show you how we might be able to accomplish this. So for those of you that don't know, I'm going to give you a quick 30-second overview on what Youreka is all about. First of all, we're a Salesforce native forms application. Which means that you can find us on the Salesforce App Exchange. Anytime you've got folks doing assessments, audits, checklists, surveys, whatever kind of the word that is used in your industry, it doesn't matter. Anytime you've got folks that are filling out these forms, I'll call them, and need that information to be put back into Salesforce, that's what Youreka was designed to do. We handle both the mobile use case, even offline, as well as desktop forms, even though today we're going to be talking about the mobile use case. Using our mobile application. And then we obviously service both internal Salesforce users, communities users, and external users as well. And again, today we're going to be talking about that mobile use case where most likely your internal users or perhaps your communities users filling out forms and mapping that data back to Salesforce. So here's what you're going to see today. I've got two demo flows to show you. They're very similar, but they are useful in very different situations. So the first one that we're going to go through is we're actually going to look inside of Salesforce at a list of audits that I have planned for a variety of different job sites or clients that I'm going to go out to. We're going to prepare an audit to make sure that our mobile users are ready to go so that when they go out into the field, it's going to be really easy for them to open up that audit, fill out a form, answer a bunch of different questions, and then map that data back to Salesforce. We're going to complete that audit on my mobile device, and we're going to do it without internet connectivity. And then when we go back online, what's going to happen is we're going to sync that audit information back to Salesforce. It's going to push everything back into the system. It's going to update reports and dashboards. It's going to send off email alerts and kind of continue the business processes from that point forward. So that's demo flow number one. Demo flow number two, like I said, is going to be pretty similar. The only difference is that we're not going to prepare an audit before we go out on site. I'm going to show you an example of how we can use Youreka to, at the drop of a hat on an ad hoc basis, conduct a specific audit just because maybe you happen to be in the field at that time and you want to get something done. So we're going to go through both of those examples here. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and head on over to my Salesforce org and mobile device. So what you should see here is on the left-hand side of the screen, we've got my example Salesforce org. And then on the right-hand side of my screen, I have actually my iPhone. It's we currently are opening up to the Youreka mobile app, which is available both on the iOS store as well as the Google Play Store, Android store. All right, so just to get us familiarized with what we're seeing here, I've got this org on the left-hand side of the screen, and we've got a bunch of different accounts or a bunch of different tabs, running along the top side part of the screen. And these are sort of a combination of standard objects, and I've also got a couple of custom objects in here too. But primarily, the most important thing that we should be looking at the moment is this Audits tab, which I've got drawn up here. And what we're able to do is I've got this custom object in here that represents a specific audit. And you can see these are an example or a list of completed audits that I have in the system. Not just the audit, but where it took place, the date of that particular inspection or audit, and then maybe some other results like what ultimately happened as a result of this audit being completed, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to use this example object, and we're actually going to pull up future scheduled audits that have yet to take place. And so I'm just going to open up one of these. We'll do one for Storm Energy is the name of the company that I would be doing this audit for. And so as you can see here, I'm just going to kind of zoom in. You can see we just have some basic information here on the page. We've got the location that we're going to. We've got a status that could be scheduled or it could be completed, etc. And then we also have the date of the inspection, and then a bunch of information at the bottom here that represents what happens after the audit's complete. But I'm not worried about that right now because we're just planning this thing, okay? So with the audit record here, what's important to notice about Youreka is that Youreka, when you install the managed package into your Salesforce org, you get some extra objects that come with it. And those objects can be connected to any of the existing objects that you're currently using in your system. So what I'm going to be doing is I actually need to prepare a form to help support me actually doing this audit. And when I do that, the form is going to be presented to me, the mobile user, on my mobile device. And you can already see I've got one already queued up here, but I'm going to do the second one right now. There's several different ways we can do this. We can actually create a new form record right here on the audit. I also have just made a quick flow here that takes care of it for me. So I just click prepare audit and then I click next, and that form record is going to be generated, ready to go using the template that I want it to. We talk about form templates in a different video, so I'm not going to take a bunch of time to talk about those. But the idea is I've already prepared a specific template of questions that I want to be able to answer, and those will be presented to me as a mobile user. In this case, the audit that we're going to be doing is a work at heights audit. So we're going to be going out into the field and answering a bunch of questions about people who are on ladders and using mechanical lifts, et cetera, to make sure we're safely handling all of those processes. So I've created my form record. Now I'm a mobile user that's actually going on site, and I am responsible for answering this or filling out this form. So I'll quickly, before I leave the office and I've got internet connectivity, I'll sync up, and that new form record has been created for me. It's Storm Energy. That's this audit that we're going to be doing. And so now what's important to know is that Youreka can work without internet connectivity, which is in many cases, we talk to customers all the time. In many cases, their users are not going to have connection. So we're going to sync up this form like we just did before we leave the office. And then I'm actually going to remove all internet connectivity from my mobile device right here. So I'm in offline mode. Everything that I'm about to do is going to happen without internet connection. So I'm driving to this Storm Energy, this specific location. And when I hop into the form record itself, we're going to notice that I'm presented with all the questions that I need to fill out here while I'm conducting this audit. Couple of things to pay attention to right here. First of all, the form is pre-populated with some information, and it's actually pulling information from the audit record right here. So I've got the specific location, I've got the inspection date, and I've got the brief description of the audit that we're going to be doing here. So this information has been pre-populated. If I want to, I can make changes to it. So we'll just say test, test, test at the very end of this. And when I make those changes back in the system, they'll be reflected here inside of Salesforce. So as soon as I submit this form at the end of my audit, those changes will be made. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just proceed with my actual audit. So there's a bunch of questions that I need to answer now as they pertain to what I'm seeing here on the job site. And the very first one is I want to know if there's actually a signed JSA. Like, can we proceed with this audit, or do we need to do that first? And the answer is I actually have one, but if I didn't, that I can present some information here inside of Youreka very dynamically using our conditional display logic, which would help guide me as a user through the process. So here I'm going to say, if the answer was no, I'll say stop. This audit may not proceed until this item is complete. But in this case, the answer is yes, so I can move on. And now I'm just going to answer a bunch of questions about what I'm seeing on the job site. So have all the scaffolding been thoroughly inspected? If the answer is yes, then great. If the answer is no, maybe I need some explanation. So here is an example explanation. And so this really allows you to collect the right kind of information at the right time without having to show all of the different fields all at once. So we're really able to guide people through the form without a lot of unnecessary information. Next question, are all ladders equipped with a cage? If the answer is yes, maybe I want to be able to take a photo of this as a sort of way of just saying, like, prove it. Let's go ahead and show us what you're seeing in the field. So we can use Youreka's photo capabilities. I just have an image here of a guy climbing a ladder with a cage. So we'll save this to our form here. For those of you that are a bit more familiar with the Salesforce's architecture, these are actually just Salesforce files that we're saving here. So this image itself is going to be saved here to the form record. We can mark it up if we want it to. But then when we pass this form back to Salesforce, that image is going to be available to us there. So I'm just going to go ahead and cruise through, answer a bunch of these questions. We'll say everybody's doing a really good job. The answer is yes, 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 yes. In this case, maybe we don't see everybody using full body harnesses, so we'll say no. So a couple of no's, but generally speaking, the answer to all these safety-related questions is yes. So we're here on our last page. The other thing that's really important to notice too is when we talk to a lot of customers, they have some pretty lengthy forms and they need to be able to navigate to different sections. We can do that right here inside of Youreka as well. So it's very easy for us to kind of bounce around to different parts of the form without having to scroll a great amount. So I'm just going to go to the very last section here where we answered those questions. And then we're presented with some final questions right here. So the first one is, please provide any other information about this audit here. I'll say, everybody seemed compliant minus a few items. And then finally, we can change the status of the audit when we're done. So it was originally scheduled, but now we'll just say that it's completed. And we're basically done. The only other thing that I'll show you about this particular form here is that we can actually create other records inside of Salesforce right from our form. So maybe in this case, I need to speak with the site manager tomorrow as a result of this audit taking place. So I'll actually create a Salesforce task right here, and I'll just say follow up with site manager. And then we'll indicate that the due date is tomorrow so that when I get back to the office, if I need to log a call tomorrow to this particular person, I can do that. Say that the priority of the task and the status. And then we're done. So we've created a task record here at the very end after answering all the questions that we needed to answer as a part of this Work at Heights audit. So what I can do now is click Submit. And when I do, what we'll notice is, remember, the whole thing just took place without internet connectivity, and Youreka recognizes that. And so what it's going to do is it's going to save all the information from that form right here locally on our device until we find internet connectivity. And it's going to tell the user that. We can see here it says the form is waiting to sync. So what we're going to do now is just give ourselves some internet connectivity again. It's going to say we've reconnected. It's time to sync. And so I'll click OK, and at this point, it's going to pass everything back up into Salesforce. So it's going to provide those form updates, all the answers to those questions, the photos, and then any automation reports and dashboards that are going to happen as a result of this information back in the system. All of that's going to take place too. And as you probably just heard, I just received an email that indicates that an audit has been completed. We'll visit that here in a moment. So if I go back over into Salesforce, what I'm going to do is just refresh my page, and we'll see that a lot of these changes have been made. So let's go ahead and do this. All right, what we're presented with, we see that the audit itself is no longer scheduled. It's moved over to completed. We actually have our form on the right-hand side now says that it's been submitted. We have a discovery record, which I'll talk about here in one quick second. And then we also have these final audit closeout information. This has all been filled out automatically using Salesforce automation. So let's take these items one at a time. First of all, that form that was completed is now entirely available here inside of Salesforce. So there's a couple things to note about this. First of all, everything that was entered in is completely filled out. So if anybody at this point needs to understand the answers to which, that occurred for each question, we can view all of that here. We can see all the photos that were taken, any markups to those photos as well. It's all available right here on the form record, okay? If we go to the very top, as you probably saw, there were some insights that were made available to us as well. But these insights come in two different flavors. The first one is called a discovery, and the second one, we're using Salesforce Einstein. So in the first case, discoveries are a feature that comes with Youreka that allows you to basically automatically have Youreka analyze the answers to the questions in the form and then produce these discovery records in certain situations. So if you have a combination of many different answers to questions, we can set it up so these discoveries get made. In this case, I'm counting all the times that we said no in the form, and I'm calculating what that score might be. So in this case, we figured out that 23% of the survey questions were answered no. I'm also using Einstein's sentiment in this case. So we're actually analyzing the free text of the auditor, and we're able to say that it seems 43% negative is what it gave me. Obviously, this is going to be based off of the Einstein sentiment model that you train inside of your org. So as you run more and more elements of free text through it, you can start to really train this model to understand where the positive comments are and where the negative comments are. And that's available right here on the form record. If I go back, we're going to be able to see, we'll go back to that audit record, if it'll take me back there. We're also going to see that discovery record has actually been created right here. And what's really great about that is these discoveries can fire off other automation. So as you can see here, I actually moved the score of those discoveries over right here onto the audit. I also was able to say, under a certain threshold of these no's happening in this audit, I'm actually going to determine whether or not this audit passed or failed. So that's automatically happening in the system. And obviously, on a long enough timeline with enough audits, we're able to just automatically have the system assess whether or not all these audits are passing or failing, which gives us a really high-level view as to how people are performing in the field. So that's what a specific record looks like after we've completed it. But any demo wouldn't be complete without rolling this all up into a dashboard and report view. So what I'm going to show you now is we can just take all of this audit information and very easily start to aggregate it onto a dashboard. So you can imagine as we're scheduling these audits, as we're putting people out in the field to go conduct them, and as the responses in these forms are coming back, we're able to easily understand where things are passing, where things are failing, and then we can get those high-level views as to actually what the answers were into each of these questions. For each question, where are we seeing yeses? Where are we seeing nos? How can we be improving? These are all insights that you're offered as a result of having this information collected in the field, as opposed to the way that many folks are doing it today, which is surprisingly enough still on paper or old antiquated systems. So what Youreka allows you to do is to really be able to roll this information back into Salesforce after you've collected it with or without internet connectivity, all seamlessly. So that's the demo flow number one. Demo flow number two is going to be much more, we're going to do it much more quickly. If we go back over to my mobile device on the right-hand side, we'll actually notice there's a plus button in the bottom right-hand corner. And this is to be used if we don't actually have forms that we need to fill out. If we're out in the field without internet connectivity, and I determine that I want to conduct a specific type of audit that I hadn't planned on before, I can just click that button, and then all of the form templates that have been prepared for me as a mobile user are accessible. So I can simply say, I want to conduct a work at heights audit, and immediately the work at heights templates are going to be made available to me. So even without internet connectivity, I'll just create a new audit record inside of Salesforce. I'm able to look up the specific location that I'm at. I can say what the date and time is, and I'll just say, ad hoc work at heights. And then the same form is presented to us here, so we can fill out all this information very easily without having to have planned it in advance. And the reason why I felt like it was so important to talk about this use case is it seems to be a really common request, is that in many cases people are going out into the field. They weren't planning on doing a specific type of audit, but while we're here, we might as well accomplish this anyway. And so what we've just done here is the same exact flow that we did for the very first one, except there was not an audit record actually existing in Salesforce yet. We're making it from our Youreka mobile app. So when I go back online here and sync information back up, it's actually going to create the new audit record for me. Let's see if it's done it yet. And there we go. So the Refinery 113 was the location that I went for here. We just made it right now, and it looks like we passed. So those are the two different types of use cases that I want to make sure you understood, was the ability to actually prepare these audits in advance and have us go out into the field, answer questions with or without internet connectivity, and then push it back, as well as on an ad hoc basis, conduct these audits, and then have all the records in Salesforce reflect that audit work as well. So for now, I'm going to sign off. If anybody has any questions watching this as to what Youreka's capabilities might be that I might not have directly spoken to, feel free to shoot me an email, or obviously you can visit us at Youreka.io or on the Salesforce.com app exchange to learn more about how Youreka might be able to help your business.